Happy Friday, Nashville. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. This is a preview show of what is going to be a great weekend of football across the state of Tennessee, all of college football, the NFL, and much more. Again, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. So much to get to today. Titans and Rams coming up on Sunday. Home opener for the Titans. First time Cam Ward playing a real game at Nissan Stadium. He's going to be without a large part of his offensive line. J.C. Latham confirming that he is not going to play on Sunday. We will talk about that later in the show. Also, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, both with huge matchups, a chance to prove themselves, get to 3-0. Tennessee against Georgia on Saturday afternoon, Vandy, South Carolina, Saturday night. We'll look at those two games as well as some other big games across the college football landscape and much more. But, Parker, we have to start with what all the people are here for, cow milking.
Who cares about the games? Let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah, so myself and Chase McCabe, I know everybody tuning in wanted the cow milking competition update. Myself and Chase McCabe competed against some of the local TV stations last night at the Nashville Fair. Annual cow milking competition. Big Joe was the MC. It was us versus News 2, Channel 5, Channel 4, and Channel 17. And I can confidently tell you that Chase and I finished dead last, and it was not even close. It was not so the winning team was the girls from Local On 2. They won back-to-back years, by the way.
So they're defending champs.
They seem to have the touch. We did not.
The pressure was high, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. They got 280 milliliters of milk in 3 minutes. There's no context to that, but I can tell you, Chase and I got 87 milliliters of milk.
Okay.
So they tripled us. It was not close. I've never done anything like that. It was a new experience. I will say, I think that Chase and I kind of got the short straw. We got the smallest cow there. And from what I was told, smaller the cow, the less milk you're going to get.
So they set you up for failure from the very beginning.
Well, we knew we were getting set up for failure when everybody else got the same size bucket, like probably size of my head bucket, and we got a little tiny one. And not that anybody filled their bucket up, but I was like, man, there are low expectations for us. We did have T-Rack and Nash cheering us on the entire time. They picked the sports guys. They were rooting us on. It started off bad when our cow, Jazz, by the way, shout out Jazz.
It's a cool name for a cow.
She did her best. She had her own way of marking the start of the competition. I guess I could say that. Something other than milk came out of her right as we started the competition. We won't go much further.
That's as specific as we'll get.
Yes. Luckily, we didn't get any of it on us. Chase almost got hit in the face by a hoof or a. Is that what? Was it a hoof? A cow?
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Chase almost got kicked in the head, and it really was all downhill from there. 87 milliliters. The winning team had 280. I think the fourth place team even got like 170. So we were in last by 2 times. It was exponential. So anyway, I know that's why everybody tuned in here. Just an absolutely horrible showing from me and Chase McCabe. But you know what? It was a learning experience for us. Next year, if we go back, I have a feeling we'll be better, and we'll choose a better cow.
Yeah, hopefully you won't get the small cow. I feel like we can't really count this result because it wasn't an even playing field. It wasn't level, So
right. And there was an idea thrown out there of like maybe everybody should milk the same cow, but then you wonder about like law of diminishing returns of like, does the person who goes first get more milk than the person who goes last? I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a fair way to do this, but I will say the team that won, the Local On 2, their cow was, it looked like our cow was their baby. Like it was a big cow.
Makes sense.
So yeah, they got over 200 milliliters more than we did. It was not close. Big Joe had a nice laugh about that when he was reading the results off. We were not even in the same, we weren't playing the same sport as the other teams. It was a rough showing.
This is making my day right now. This is what I was looking forward to when I was driving into the station today.
See, I didn't really know what to expect. And it's like you pull in to the Nashville Fair and like you tell the gate agent, like, hey, I'm doing media for the cow milking competition. And they're like, right this way. It's like you're a VIP.
This is their
So
Super Bowl.
we
This is what they were here for.
We went in there. I texted Nick Frazier and Connor Newt. I said, I now know what it feels like to be the man in the arena. There was actually a pretty decent crowd out there. Like many more people than I expected to be out there on a Thursday night for a cow milking competition. Anyway, it didn't go well. It was, I don't know how many people out there have actually milked a cow, but it didn't look like what I expected it to. Like, you always kind of, when you think of a cow, like the udders, like you think of, I don't even know what you think of, but it didn't look like that. They look like kind of like thumbs that you were squeezing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't go too much deeper into this.
TD was having a very fun time with this conversation yesterday.
TD was probably the last person who wanted to talk about cow milking on the show yesterday. But anyway, thank you to anyone who reached out with tips yesterday. Some of them were more helpful than others. Nick Frazier did. Of course, Nick Frazier knows tips of how to milk a cow.
What doesn't that man know? He knows all the weird little things that people do. Like,
so
he just knows it.
When I texted him yesterday, right before we started, he was like, hey, if you get a bucket of warm water and dip your hand in it, the milk will flow like wine. And I'm like, how do you know this, Nick? Like, but that is,
I don't know if I would want to ask.
That is such a Dr. Crane thing to know. Anyway, did not go well. Chase McCabe, Jake Lyman did not do well at the cow milking competition at the Nashville Fair last night. But it was only year one for me. You know, we're going to spend 365 days trying to improve. I also found out just before that my grandmother was the dairy princess of New Hampshire. And so I feel like I let down my ancestors, my genealogy. It should have been in the blood to be a good cow milker, I guess.
Man, I didn't know this.
I didn't know it either. So
you let down royalty, man.
I did.
You have royalty in your blood.
I have dairy royalty in my blood, and I let them down. Chase and I finished dead last. I believe Chase is going to join me at the very end of the show. We're going to do a little crossover before Chase and Big Joe come on, and we'll do a post-mortem, a little post-game. We'll look at the tape and see what we need to improve on.
I need a little post-game presser.
Thankfully, there is no actual tape. No one actually got a video of it. Chase did put out a picture of us with Nash and T-Rack cheering us on last night.
He did kind of spoil the result for me because he said it did not go well.
It did not go well. It went worse than I expected, though. It did. I thought we would at least be within striking distance. Again, we were not even like, it was like the major leagues for everybody else, and we were playing high A, like rookie ball. That was it was a tough showing. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. There you go. Everybody who tuned in for cow milking, we got straight to it on this Friday morning. We will talk actual sports, actual football coming up throughout the rest of the show. Chase might join us for that last segment. We'll talk. We'll go through exactly what happened last night. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Plenty to get to on the Titans. We'll talk J.C. Latham's injury. Tavondre Sweat hasn't practiced this week. We'll do that later this hour. But an interesting Thursday night football game last night. And TD and I went through this game and the matchup with the Packers and the Commanders. Two teams that want to prove that they can be contenders in the NFC. The Packers, I think, established themselves right in that conversation to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl last night. Also, big injury for the Commanders. We'll get into all of that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Friday morning. Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Wisconsin takes on Alabama tomorrow at 11 a.m. in our college football game of the week on 102.5 The Game, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants and Circa Sportsbook Kentucky. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Friday, getting ready for what will be an exciting football weekend. Tennessee, Vandy, Titans, all with big games this weekend. We'll get to all of them throughout the show, but we did have a game last night. Packers and Commanders. And TD and I talked yesterday about how these two teams both believe that they can challenge the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. And the Packers, I think with the Micah Parsons addition, have vaulted themselves into that conversation, but obviously before that trade, maybe weren't considered in that tier. The Commanders went to the NFC Championship game last year, but there's always going to be some regression when you have a rookie quarterback take you to 12 wins and you make a run, you beat the number one seed on the road. And I think we saw last night, Parker, that the Packers, that's a legit team right there. That is a tough way to start your season, having to face Detroit and Washington back-to-back. And neither game was really all that close. The Commanders scored late to make it look a little bit more respectable, but it was all Packers last night. Green Bay, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC.
Yeah, and they did it both wins easily, especially over the Lions. And you could tell the Lions really missed Ben Johnson, just the way their offense operated. And something, I can't put my finger on it exactly. The Commanders' offense just looked night and day different from last year in a bad way. But I've been saying since the Packers acquired Micah Parsons that they were one really elite player on defense away from contending for a Super Bowl. And now that they have Micah Parsons, I believe they're right at the top of the conversation.
Yeah, and I think Green Bay did a good job of deploying Micah Parsons when they needed to. And there was the one play, I thought he was offsides, but it was just how fast he got off the ball. Ended up chasing Jaden Daniels out of the pocket, and he kind of did a somersault as he crossed the line of scrimmage. Like, Micah Parsons is a game wrecker on that defensive line, but it's not like he's the only pass rusher they have. Rashawn Gary was getting to the quarterback last night. This is a good Packers team, and Jordan Love has looked really good in his first couple of games. He had a couple of touchdowns last night. Tucker Kraft is looking like he could be a top-tier tight end. It is tough. Jaden Reed, I believe, broke his collarbone last night. And
I don't believe it's confirmed yet, but it did look
that's
like.
What it looked like. And it looked kind of similar to the Traylon Burks play in the practice at Nissan Stadium that broke his collarbone. Just one of those plays where you go up to make a catch and you got the defender on your back and you just land awkwardly on that shoulder. It's not great to see, but they do have other options out there. Drafted Matthew Golden out of Texas in the first round this year. Christian Watson, other options at wide receiver. Romeo Doubs did he score a touchdown last night? I believe he did.
Yes, he scored the first touchdown, right. The slant in the end zone when they were on like the 5-yard line.
Right. So the Packers, even though they may not have that superstar number one wide receiver, they've got plenty of depth out there, and you hope that Jaden Reed can get healthy. For the Commanders, I picked them to miss the playoffs last week when we did our predictions, and not because they went 5-12 or something like that. I had them going 10-7, losing a tiebreaker, not getting back to the playoffs. And I think it's just the NFC has a lot of good teams, and I think the Commanders fall into that category. They made some moves this year to try and get better, but like, is Laramie Tunsil still an elite tackle in this game? Probably not. He's still a good one, but they made that move. He's not going to be a game changer out there at left tackle. Deebo Samuel, coming off a horrible year with San Francisco. Now, he did get into the end zone last night. I think he's beaten the fat allegations. Can we say that?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Fine to me.
Last year, everybody was saying, man, Deebo Samuel looks out of shape. He looks like he's gained some weight. He looks like he is in football shape. But again, I don't think he is the same player he was 3 years ago. Marshawn Lattimore looks horrible. Like, pretty much ever since he got traded from New Orleans, he looks horrible.
They were going after him all night. Like the Cowboys were going after Adoree Jackson. It was the same thing. They were going after Marshawn Lattimore, and I just can't believe it because he was an elite corner not too long ago.
Cornerback is the position. I know running back gets talked about a lot as the position where it's like the wheels can come off and you just go from a dude to just another guy really fast. And I think cornerback is in that category of like, the peak of a cornerback's career, unless you are Darrelle Revis, is so short. And you can go from being locked down at cornerback to you lose one step and all of a sudden you're a liability out there. And that's what happened with Marshawn Lattimore. Like Marshawn Lattimore 3 years ago, those battles with Mike Evans were legendary in that NFC South. Like it was must-see TV to see Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans go at it. And last night, if he wasn't getting toasted, he was getting called for a penalty. And I'm wondering if to relate this to the Titans, like L'Jarius Sneed, he looked good when he was out there on Sunday, but that is why it is maybe not the best idea to invest a ton in a cornerback, because cornerbacks can go from being all pro to just a guy in 1-2 years. And then, you invested close to $100 million and a third-round pick in a guy who is basically just an average cornerback.
Yeah, mentally, I think quarterback is the hardest position to play in all sports, but it's not as much physically. I think cornerback in the NFL especially, hardest position to play on the football field physically, because you're having to mirror receivers and you're mirroring the best athletes, some of the best athletes in the world. So I think the lifespan of a really elite corner, or the prime of a corner's career, is a lot shorter compared to some of these other positions.
Yes, for sure. And I agree with you. Like quarterback for sure is the hardest position to play in football because of the mental side of it. You have to know what everybody's assignment is on every single play. But cornerback, I think you're right. Physically, that is the toughest position to play because the wide receiver knows where he's going. You have no idea. And any contact you make is likely going to draw a flag. It's tough to play cornerback. And I think that is why you see these guys go from elite to average so fast, because if you lose just a little step, that's all it takes for these elite wide receivers to become that much better than you.
I mean, think about how many corners we can name that were elite for 3-4 years. Right. And then Tre'Davious White is one that comes to mind, but he's had some injury issues. But I think of so many guys that were so elite for a few years and then just kind of fell off a cliff.
No, it is true. It's like you look at the best wide receivers in football, and usually you can be one of the best wide receivers in football for 5-6 years. Like for years it was, all right, is it Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, or Odell Beckham Jr.? And then it was like, oh, is it Julio, Antonio Brown, or DeAndre Hopkins? Like it was all kind of the same guys. But you're right, like cornerbacks, you get a couple of years. Like Marcus Peters, I know he was more of an interception artist, but he had a year or two where everybody was like, oh, he's the best quarterback in football. And then he fell off a cliff. Trayvon Diggs, again, kind of a pick artist, but people were talking about whether he was one of the best cornerbacks in football. He gets burned a lot. You mentioned Tre'Davious White, Marlon Humphrey in that draft class too. Like all of these guys who you only get 3 or 4 years as an elite cornerback, if that. And I think we've seen the end of Marshawn Lattimore last night. Also, tough to see for Austin Eckler. Looks like he tore his Achilles last night. And for a guy his age at that position, you wonder if that may be just about it for Austin Eckler, and that's tough to see.
Yeah, it was so unfortunate. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional, but just the way he was reaching, like the area he was reaching for on his leg, you just kind of knew, right. And the way it buckled, you just kind of knew. It's so unfortunate for Austin Eckler.
And the Commanders came out immediately, and they didn't say ankle, they didn't say calf, they said Achilles injury. And when you come out that fast with, yeah, it's an Achilles injury, he tore his Achilles. And it's really tough to see because that Austin Eckler is a guy who I think a lot of people kind of gave up on him when he left LA. It was like, all right, yeah, he's just this most recent undrafted late round running back who was good for a couple of years. And then, you cast him aside and draft somebody else. He was pretty good with the Commanders, and it's tough to see. It looks like we'll be seeing a lot more of Bill coming up for the Commanders.
Love Bill Krosky-Merritt. That story is truly incredible. If you haven't seen his story, I highly encourage you to look it up. It's incredible.
Justin from Greenbrier says Parsons looked like he was on roller skates and the Washington O-line was stuck in the mud. He was so fast off the ball, it was like he knew the snap count. Right. There was the one play I was waiting for the flag because I was like, he had to have been offsides, and they showed the replay.
Exactly
and I'm like, nope. He just was so fast getting off the ball. And Justin also says he played like a monster. The more he does that, the worse it makes Jerry Jones look. And yeah, can't argue with that. Jerry Jones, I understand that sometimes you have to trade away good players, but Micah Parsons so far is making that trade look worse and worse with what he's done in the first 2 weeks. It's early. We're not going to have a full-on grade of this trade until we see what the Cowboys do with those first-round picks. If it ends up getting them a franchise quarterback who can be the successor to Dak Prescott, great. That would be worth it for the Cowboys, but we don't really know. 7988, going back to the cow milking. He says it's an analogy on the sports teams here in Nashville. When you have Nash and T-Rock cheer for you, you finish last. So, yeah.
Ouch.
Wasn't good. He also says no cow milking video, betrayal in all caps. Yeah. I was hoping.
I agree.
I was hoping to get a video, but it happened so fast. It was only 3 minutes. We were in and out of there in less than an hour. So I didn't get a video. There is a picture on Chase McCabe's Twitter. If you want to go check it out, you can see Chase and me kneeling on either side of the cow. And again, yeah, T-Rack and Nash cheering us on. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are driven by Wilson County Hyundai. This Sunday, catch the Eagles versus the Chiefs for the NFL Game of the Week on ESPN 1025 The Game at 3:25 p.m. The NFL Game of the Week is presented by Circa Sportsbook, Kentucky, and Macero in 12 South. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. When we come back, we'll get into the Titans. Some injury news yesterday, and I don't know if the Titans are all that happy that J.C. Latham broke his own injury news. I thought that was funny, and you could see the hesitation in his eyes when they asked him, so you're out for Sunday? And he was just like, yeah. So we'll talk about that. Cam Ward not going to have one of his protectors up front on Sunday. We will get to that. And also, Tavondre Sweat hasn't practiced this week. Could be big news for the Titans if he's unable to get out there today. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game.
What do you think of the Rams pass rush? Cam certainly did some damage late last year and got off to a pretty good start. What do you see when you see them on tape?
That's a real group of rushers right there. They're powerful, they're athletic. They can move the pocket, whether it's me having to step up or me having to get out front or back side. So they're a talented group up there. Our O line, they're ready for the challenge. I got everything in faith in our O line. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have themselves a big day.
That was Cam Ward talking about the Rams pass rush group. He says he has faith in the Titans offensive line. I don't, especially with J.C. Latham announcing yesterday that he is not going to play on Sunday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. So J.C. Latham left the game on Sunday against Denver with hip issues that he had been dealing with throughout training camp in the preseason, and it looks like he is not going to play on Sunday. Again, I mentioned heading into the break, I'm not sure the Titans all that happy that he announced that yesterday. He kind of implied it in some of his previous answers of like, I'm preparing the same way I would if I was going to play. And a good follow-up there of, so you're not playing on Sunday, got the answer out of J.C. Latham. So it'll be Ali Udoh, most likely at right tackle on Sunday. Titans are going to have their hands full with Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Byron Young, et cetera, trying to keep Cam Ward upright. And I don't see how this is going to go well for the Titans on Sunday. Cam Ward got hit 12 times in Sunday's game against Denver. This pass rush is similar, if not better than what Denver had. I think Nick Benito is probably better than any of the guys that the Rams have out there, but collectively, this is a really good Rams pass rush. Cam might be running for his life a good amount on Sunday at Nissan Stadium in his debut.
I do have one point that I want to make, that if we're looking at the bright side here, there's one thing that can help this Titans offensive line on Sunday. That is prayer.
Yeah.
Pray hard for this Titans offensive line.
I would hope Cam Ward is doing that too. Hopefully he can stay healthy. It wasn't good on Sunday. It wasn't. And Dan Moore didn't look good against Nick Benito. And Ali Udoh, when he did get in there, was struggling. J.C. Latham honestly struggled when he was out there, although maybe the hip had something to do with that. The interior looked fine, which gives you a little bit of hope, but it just seems like Cam Ward is going to have a tough time being able to sit back there and go through his reads. Also, T'Vondre Sweat is out. And not out for the game, but he hasn't practiced yet. We will find out his status later today. I'm not sure when the ankle happened. Maybe it was towards the end of the game, but I mean, he was out there for that 4th and inches, which was with about 4 minutes left.
I couldn't pinpoint it either.
I don't know if there was a specific play, or maybe this is an accumulation of stuff that's been going on throughout the last couple of weeks since he came back from the tonsillitis. But not having T'Vondre Sweat out there hurts your advantage you would have on the other side, because the Rams may be missing a couple of starting offensive linemen. I did see yesterday, I think Steve Avila still did not practice yesterday, so likely he is not going to play. Kevin Dotson and Rob Havenstein both returned in limited fashion. We will get their statuses later today as well. So if the Titans' one big advantage is that there are a couple of offensive linemen out for the Rams, you'd like to have your best defensive lineman out there to take advantage of that. Jeffrey Simmons looked really good on Sunday. You hope to have another performance like that against LA, but Sweat is a big part of that too. And especially you want to stop the run, you want to make sure you can get the Rams behind the sticks. It may not be good if T'Vondre Sweat out there. The trenches may be the undoing of the Titans, despite all the investment they've had in those over the last couple of years.
Well, T'Vondre Sweat didn't practice yesterday either.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So that could be. But if the Rams are going to be without both of their starting guards, which I think there's a chance that they'll be just without Steve Avila. I think Kevin Dotson is going to play, but the Titans desperately need T'Vondre Sweat, because you can't be without him and you can't be without J.C. Latham. If you are, there's not a lot of hope.
Yeah, it's like those are your two guys from last year's draft who you had high hopes for this year of taking that next step. J.C. Latham moving back to his primary position, his comfortable position at right tackle. T'Vondre Sweat showed a lot of promise last year, didn't really hit the quarterback maybe as much as you'd like to. And after missing most of training camp, now it looks like he may be out for week 2. It's tough. And you hope that Jeffrey Simmons can still have a big day. 7988 says Simmons should eat on Sunday, but Sweat would eat too if he gets to play. Like that is big for Jeffrey Simmons, because if Sweat's not out there, all the double teams are going Big Jeff's way. Like,
exactly.
I don't think you're double teaming Sebastian Joseph Day or James Lynch. Like, as much as I think those guys are capable players, the double teams are going to go Jeff's way. Having Sweat out there, even if Sweat isn't the one who makes the play, it opens things up for Jeffrey Simmons and Femi Oladejo and the other guys on the edge. So you got to hope Tavondre Sweat can get back out there on the practice field today. That's where my eyes are, because knowing that JC Latham is already out, you got to just prepare for the Titans offensive line not to be very good. And 7988 also says fast release, 2-minute offense all day. I think that's what you have to do. You've got Brian Callahan last year had plenty of experience planning around the offensive line not being very good. And I think that's what he has to game plan for on Sunday, is you've got to find quick releases. You got to find layups for Cam Ward. I think that's really your only option. Otherwise, you're just leaving him back there as a sitting duck to get hit again.
Yeah. And sorry, I was talking to Chase, so I didn't catch all of what you said. That's the point of Jeffrey Simmons losing all that weight in the offseason, losing 20 pounds, was you're going to get double team regardless, because you're Jeff Simmons. And if you drop the weight, it helps you move a little bit more efficiently, a little bit more smoothly to get past some of those double teams. But if you have Tavondre Sweat out there alongside you, that takes so much pressure, where maybe you're getting double teamed less. You're still going to get double teamed, but you'll get double teamed less. And that opens up the lanes for some of the pass rushers. So if Tavondre Sweat is not out there, not only does that hurt Jeffrey Simmons, but that hurts some of the guys like Arden Key, Femi Oladejo, guys like that.
Yeah, it's a tough start to the season for the Titans. I mean, if you look at the two matchups that you probably didn't want to start the year, these are the two. I know the Chiefs are good. That wouldn't have been a great matchup, but you look throughout the rest of the Titans schedule, I don't know if you're going to see defenses like this back to back to start in any other portion of the schedule. Like the rest of the schedule, not to say it's easy, but there are a lot more winnable games. And even you look at some of the tougher games, I wouldn't say that the Chargers or the Texans or the Chiefs or the 49ers are going to give you as many challenges as the Broncos and Rams are. So going 0-2 to start the season, it's not unexpected. Like I think everybody kind of looked at the schedule and said, yeah, those are going to be tough games to win. The Titans were competitive against the Broncos. They probably should have won if it weren't for self-inflicted negatives, which were, that's all they spent talking about the entire offseason. With the Rams, this one, it just feels like a horrible matchup with the injuries coming in the worst spots at the worst times. And I don't see this going well for Tennessee on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's the thing that pains Titans fans the most, because I certainly didn't expect them to beat the Broncos on Sunday, but I also didn't expect the Broncos to turn the ball over 4 times,
right.
3 by the offense, 1 on special teams. And that's the thing. The Titans could have won that game if they caught the football, if they capitalized on turnovers. I did expect them to start 0-2, and that puts your offense, that puts your rookie quarterback, that puts everybody in a bad hole. But then you have the Colts in week 3, which I'm not really impressed by the Colts. Like, I know they got that week 1 win versus the Dolphins, but the Dolphins kind of stink. So that'll be an opportunity. And then you have the Texans, but yeah, starting 0-2, not great.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the next 6 weeks after this one, you're probably not going to be favored in many of these games. A lot of them are on the road, but Colts, Texans, Cardinals, Raiders, Patriots, Colts, like those are all games that you look at and say, all right, there's a chance if the Titans play well, they can win those games. This one with the injuries, it just doesn't. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of areas where the Titans can exploit the Rams. Rams are a good team. I don't think it's going to go well. I could be proven wrong, but last week I didn't feel good about the Broncos game, and pretty much the Broncos did everything that they needed to give the Titans a chance to win, and they still couldn't do it. I don't think the Rams are going to play as bad as the Broncos did last week. This one might be a tough watch on Sunday. 0042 says we just need our coaches to actually coach. Yeah, that's a big part of it, but you also need your players to be talented. And right now, the Titans are somehow back at offensive line purgatory. And we're going to get into that coming up next. After all the investment and all the talk of how it has to be better, and they've put a good group in front of Cam Ward, somehow after 1 week, we've gotten to the point where we're talking about Cam Ward might be running for his life again. That shouldn't be where it is with everything they've put into that line and Bill Callahan coaching it. We'll talk the offensive line coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Nashville Sounds take on the Gwinnett Stripers at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, getting you set for a big football weekend. We're talking Titans right now. We'll spend the next hour looking at the college football slate, including Tennessee and Georgia, Vanderbilt, and South Carolina. For the Titans, heading into this year, the two main reasons for optimism that this team was going to be better was, first of all, Cam Ward. Pick a quarterback number 1 overall. You expect him to be better than what you got from Will Levis last year. And the offensive line. After going out, paying Dan Moore $80 million, $82 million, you move J.C. Latham back to right tackle. You bring in an experienced veteran at right guard in Kevin Zeitler. Lloyd Cushenberry's back from injury. You kind of expected that the offensive line was going to pretty much immediately become capable. Not saying they were going to be elite, but they were going to make sure that Cam Ward was not going to get hit 12 times and get sacked 6 times in his first game. And I understand the Broncos have a great pass rush, and it is just game 1. There have been plenty of examples of offensive lines needing a couple of weeks to gel and figure it out. You look back at 2021, we mentioned it yesterday. Ryan Tannehill got sacked 5 times by Chandler Jones against the Cardinals. That offensive line ended up being pretty good. So not just condemning the offensive line right now, but it is frustrating when we talk all offseason about all the investment that has gone into the offensive line, and you have the legendary guru offensive line coach Bill Callahan, who widely regarded as, if not the best offensive line coach, second best offensive line coach in the NFL. And your first overall pick quarterback gets hit 12 times in game 1, and we're having the conversation on the Friday before week 2 of, like, how are they possibly going to protect him with Dan Moore and Ali Udo playing the tackle positions? It is frustrating that we're 4 years into this offensive line purgatory, and somehow, despite having 2 top 12 picks and a ton of free agent money on that offensive line, we're still having these conversations.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because the offensive line would be decent if J.C. Latham was out there, but Dan Moore looked like a turnstile week 1 in Denver. You're not confident in the tackle depth with Ali Udo coming in for J.C. Latham. And I said before the season started, like, it may take this offensive line a few weeks to gel because there's so much newness and guys not playing next to each other, them going up against backup defensive lines in the preseason. But what you saw on Sunday against Denver does not give you a lot of optimism if you're a Titans fan.
Yeah, Dan Moore, he got his lunch eaten by Nick Bonito pretty much all day long. It was not good. And J.C. Latham, I'm going to give a pass on because J.C. Latham was not very good either, even when he was out there. That near safety at the end of the first half was pretty much completely on J.C. Latham, just giving up instant pressure off the edge. But you have to understand that the hip was probably bothering him at that point too. They need to get him healthy. And I don't know if this is something that can be healthy next week, if it just takes a week off to rest and hopefully he's ready to go for Indy. Maybe there's an IR stint coming for J.C. Latham. Like, if this has been something that's lingering throughout training camp and the preseason and it still wasn't ready by week 1, I'm wondering if maybe this is a spot where they send him to the IR for 4 weeks and just try and make sure that he's ready to go when he comes back. Like Tajay Spears. Like, I don't know if Tajay Spears needed the 4 weeks to be healthy with the high ankle sprain. I mean, he got injured about a month ago at this point, and he still has 3 weeks left until he's eligible to return. But you want to play it safe early in the season and make sure that you don't lose him for the entire year. I'm wondering if maybe an IR stint is in the cards for J.C. Latham.
If it is, it's going to be a long 4 weeks because if you go to the IR, you're on it for at least 4 weeks. So if the Titans don't have him, it's fairly workable, that schedule, but still you don't want to be without your right tackle to protect Cam Ward's front side. And then you have Dan Moore, who doesn't look like he's worth $80 million, at least the early returns through week 1. Just would not be a good situation.
Yeah, and let's hope that it was just a week 1, shaking the rust off, getting the chemistry together. I understand it is week one, and you can't. We talk about how week one is a liar all the time. You cannot project that the offensive line is going to look as bad as they did in week one for the entire season. But it is disheartening to see that pretty much everybody outside of Peter Skoronski on that offensive line had their issues on Sunday. Zeitler was fine, but he had a bad false start that ended up leading to a fumble. And Lloyd Cushenberry, I'm sure he's healthy. I'm sure he's ready to go. But I'm sure there was a little bit of an adjustment period there. Sunday is probably going to be a disaster on the offensive line. I don't really foresee any way that Cam Ward is going to have many clean pockets on Sunday in straight drop back scenarios. They can try and scheme around it, right? You're going to do your best to get him quick throws so he doesn't have to sit back there and hope he doesn't get hit. But I just don't see a scenario where he's not going to have guys at his feet and having to flush out of the pocket. Let's see what happens when they face the Colts. And let's hope J.C. Latham doesn't have to go on the IR and he's back. But I think this is going to be a work in progress for a couple of weeks. You hope that Latham doesn't have to miss multiple weeks. But if he does, it's not going to be good. Not that the Colts have an insane pass rush, but again, if you have Ali Udo out there, I don't think it really matters who's on
Makes
the other
anybody
side.
look like an all-star, right?
And then the Texans line up Will Anderson wherever if it's Dan Moore and Ali Udo.
Daniel Hunter, too, out there.
Yeah, he's going to be in the backfield. So not exactly optimistic for this weekend. I heard Robbie and Rexroad and Ian doing their pigskin pick'em. The pick that seemed to be easiest for them was Rams -5.5. I don't know if the Titans are going to get completely blown out of the water. It is at home. It's Cam Ward's debut, and we're going to talk about what the atmosphere might be like on Sunday for Cam Ward in his first game at Nissan Stadium. But I don't see the Titans having a chance to win this game late. Like last week, that was the conversation of can Cam Ward get the ball down late with a chance to go tie it? If he does, I think that's a successful week one. Obviously, we didn't know the way it was going to turn out. But this week, I think it's just look at Cam Ward in a vacuum with what's around him. You can't fault him if he doesn't look great on Sunday with the way the offensive line is looking. I think that's basically what you're looking at on Sunday. You're probably going to lose, but can Cam Ward build off what he did well on Sunday in Denver?
That's going back to what you said. There are ways that you can scheme around this a little bit, getting the ball quick out of your hands, quick developing RPOs, screens on the outside. The problem is the defense for LA is elite, and they will be able to pick up on that very quick. Sean McVay, I know he's an offensive mind, but he's a very smart guy, so he'll know what you're doing. That's the thing about guys like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. What made them so good towards the end of their careers it wasn't that they were afraid of getting hit, but taking hits at age 40 or late in your 30s is much different than getting hit when you're early 20s, mid 20s. They were really good about getting the ball out of their hands quickly, protecting themselves. Even Joe Burrow, the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, offensive line was terrible.
The Titans sacked him 9 times.
Exactly. I believe their offensive line was somewhere in the 30s, which is horrendous, but yet they still got to the Super Bowl because Joe Burrow was good about getting the ball out of his hands quick. The thing about Cam Ward is he's entering game 2 in his rookie season. Do you really want to put all that pressure for Cam Ward to play like guys like Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady?
I think it's good for Cam Ward to get to see this stuff because it's not always going to be perfect for him. He's going to have to elevate the talent around him. That is what the good quarterbacks in this league, the great quarterbacks in this league do, is they elevate the talent around them. But looking at Sunday's game, even if he elevated them, I don't know if it's enough to be competitive with this Rams team. But it is good experience for him to be out there in a tough situation and see what he can do with it. You're going to face adversity in your NFL career, and he got the short end of the stick.
He's already on a bad team, a team that picked first overall, so it was going to be rocky regardless.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's these are 2 really tough teams to start with, and you hope that the adversity he's gone through against the Broncos and what he's probably going to see on Sunday against the Rams makes him better when he faces some of the more palatable defenses, I guess you would say, because these are, again, I don't know if you can find two tougher defenses on the Titans schedule than the ones he's facing in weeks 1 and 2. It is not going to be fun on Sunday for Cam Ward, but I think the experiences are going to help him in the future as he develops as a quarterback, because, if you see the tough ones first, the less tough ones are going to make it easier for Cam Ward moving forward. Jeff says, guys, some of us have harped and complained about the same issue of the offensive line often for several reasons. They get tired of reading our text and resort back to talking up another receiver, quarterback, or running back. I cannot understand why these supposed knowledgeable people cannot understand it all begins with a foundational offensive and defensive line. This terminal issue is seriously turning away Titans fans. For sure. And Mike Morganzi has said that they want to build through the trenches, and he's backed it up. You sign Dan Moore to an $82 million contract. You bring in Kevin Zeitler. You make sure J.C. Latham is in a comfortable spot because you used the 7th overall pick on him. They have invested in the offensive line. They bring in Femi Oladejo. They, you spent the 35th pick on Tavondre Sweat. They're trying to build through the trenches. You can't control injuries, but so far, they haven't gotten the return on the investment that they would hope for. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have questions, thoughts, text us, call us, 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Skylar says, Jake, talk me out of not betting the mortgage on the Rams money line on Sunday.
No can do, sir.
I mean, I wouldn't bet the mortgage on anything. I think that's a safe thing to say, but I do think the Rams are going to win by at least a touchdown on Sunday. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. More to come on the Titans. We will talk about the Nissan Stadium atmosphere, because I think thinking what is going to happen on Sunday based on what the matchups are for the Titans and Rams, the game's probably not going to go well. But this is Cam Ward's home debut. This is the first time ever that the Titans have had the number 1 overall pick as a quarterback make his debut at Nissan Stadium. I'm interested to know what the crowd's going to be like. What's the reaction going to be like when they announce him over the speakers before the game? And let us know if you're going to the game. 615-737-1025. We'd love to hear from you. But we can't spend the whole show on the Titans. It is a massive weekend in college football, especially in the state of Tennessee. Game day is in Knoxville. Vanderbilt on the road looking to get to 3-0 and likely ranked early on in the season. We'll talk about those games, plus other big ones across the slate as well. USF and Miami playing in prime time on the CW. Notre Dame and Texas A&M playing in South Bend. And Florida trying to prove that they can still be a top-tier team on the road in Death Valley. We'll talk about all of it in the second hour. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game, Friday edition of the show, getting set for a huge weekend of football, especially on the college slate. We'll dive in to Vandy in South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and much more in this hour. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Parker, we just had Skylar text in and say, talk me out of not betting the mortgage on the Rams money line this Sunday. I need you to talk me out of my feelings for the in-state teams, because the later we get into the week, the better I have started to feel about not just Vandy's chances, but I'm starting to feel better about Tennessee's chances against Georgia too. I don't know what it is. Throughout the week, I started to creep in that I think both these teams might pull off an upset on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know if I could talk you out of that, because I was listening to Joe Rexrod this morning, and he was getting my juices flowing for the weekend a little bit more, because he's on the Vols hype train all the way.
He was saying it's not if, but when the Vols beat Georgia on Saturday.
Very bold talk from Mr. Rexrod, just saying.
I love it with Robbie that he locked Georgia +4 or -4.5. Georgia, I think in the beginning of the week, I was in on Georgia, just the mystique around the program of like, they've been so good for the last decade under Kirby Smart, and Tennessee hasn't had an answer for them. Like, they haven't been within 14 points of Georgia since they last beat them in 2016. So just in terms of history, I was thinking Georgia. But you look at this Georgia team, the offense has left a lot to be desired. I know the defense is good, but they face Marshall and Austin Peay. Like, the defense should dominate with the players they have over there. The offense should too. They only put up 28 points against Austin Peay. And I was listening yesterday to the Chase and Big Joe show, and they were talking about that game. Georgia does not have, they have one pass over 25 yards this season. One against Marshall and Austin Peay.
Sounds about right. Their offense has sputtered on and off, because they haven't, Georgia's been one of the best offenses when it comes to utilizing the tight ends over the last 4 to 5 years. They have not done that. And for whatever reason, the Vols, if they want to win this game, they have to make Gunnar Stockton beat them through the air.
Yep.
Which he's capable of, but he just hasn't done it through 2 weeks. He's making his first true road start in Neyland Stadium as the QB1 of the Georgia Bulldogs. How is he going to respond to that? That's what I'm looking for.
Right. And it's not like there's a lack of talent on this Georgia team. There's never going to be a lack of talent on this Georgia team. But like you got Oscar Delp out there, who he's not Brock Bowers, but still a really talented tight end. Zachariah Branch, the transfer from USC, not only an electric returner, but he's a weapon on offense at wide receiver. Dylan Bell's a really good player. I just was reminded that they have London Humphreys, former Vanderbilt,
who has made some noise
on the team.
Who has made some noise in practice for Georgia. They haven't forgotten about him.
So Georgia, the talent is there. And would it shock me if Georgia went in and did it again and won by 2 touchdowns in Neyland? It wouldn't shock me, but I feel like this is going to be a game. It's going to be a game. I'm feeling better about Tennessee as we get closer. Like, we've had the conversation, Parker, about the quarterbacks at Tennessee under Josh Heupel. And you'd like to have the quote-unquote arm talent quarterbacks. That's what Joe Milton was. That's what Nico was. They were the guys, prototypical. You look at what they can do in shorts and a T-shirt, and you're like, yeah, that's a quarterback that we want on our team. But maybe between the ears, it wasn't quite what Josh Heupel needed to run his offense. Hendon Hooker and Joey Aguilar, in terms of arm talent, if you're just watching a guy making throws against air, maybe the arm talent isn't quite there for Joey Aguilar and Hendon Hooker, but they know how to run that offense. And we've seen throughout the first 2 weeks, again, against ETSU and Syracuse, who almost got beat by UConn at home on Saturday, that Joey Aguilar can run this offense. And I think if they can get out to a good start, keep that crowd in it against Georgia. I know 2 years ago when Georgia came to Neyland, they had the long touchdown run to start it, and Georgia then kind of piled on after that. But I think if you can get off to a good start, punch Georgia in the mouth, and get that Neyland 100,000 plus just right on top of that Georgia offense. You mentioned it's Gunnar Stockton making his first true career road start. I think they could pull it off.
I haven't been shy about this at all. Joe Milton and Nico are much more talented than Joey Aguilar. But Joey Aguilar, in terms of running the offense, it's not about how far can you throw the football, how tight of a spiral can you throw. That's not what this is about. This is about operating the offense. Through 2 games, Joey Aguilar has operated the offense much better than I've seen Joe Milton operate the offense, much better than I've seen Nico operate the offense. He has the timing down. He can throw a deep ball and actually with air under the football, which something Joe Milton didn't do, something Nico didn't do. That's going to benefit them on top of having home field advantage.
Right. Like I mentioned arm talent. Like how far can you throw the ball? Joe Milton can throw an orange 90 yards. But if it's not accurate, it doesn't matter. And last year, Nico had a lot of issues overthrowing the deep ball. We've seen Joey Aguilar be able to complete a couple of those early on. So I don't know. There's something leaking in that may, and again, I'm not you see the V on the chest here. Like I'm not a big Tennessee guy. I enjoy when Tennessee loses, but there's just something creeping in. I'll be rooting for Georgia with my heart, but with my head, I'm starting to feel like Tennessee has a good shot in this game.
Jake, stop it. You don't know what you're doing to me right now. Stop it, Jake.
Yeah, Parker's getting his hopes up because he's got a couple people early on here saying they think Tennessee can win. 3280 says Joey equals Stetson Bennett. And like, it's a good comparison of like, you don't have to be the most talented quarterback to have success in college. How many good college quarterbacks have there been that just don't have what it takes to be an NFL quarterback? Like we're going to talk Vandy in the next segment. Diego Pavia is not an NFL quarterback. And I wouldn't be shocked if a team brings him in to give him a shot, because when you do have that much success in college and you're experienced and you're smart, somebody's going to give you a chance. I would guess he's late round pick at the earliest, undrafted free agent most likely. But in terms of central casting for NFL quarterbacks, Diego Pavia is not that. Doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not big, but he knows how to win in college. And I think Joey Aguilar can be exactly that with Tennessee.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Max Duggan, another great example, went to a national championship with TCU of all teams.
Even some of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. Like how many great college quarterbacks have not panned out in the NFL?
Manziel, Trevon Boykin, guys like that. We can go all the way back.
You can talk Manziel was more off the field. I think he also just wasn't an NFL type quarterback. Tim Tebow,
another great example.
Phenomenal college quarterback. He was never going to make it in the NFL. Some of the Ohio State guys like Braxton Miller and
Cardell Jones, JT
Barrett, all those guys, they knew exactly what it took to win in college. They couldn't do it in the NFL. You don't have to be the 6'5" cannon of an arm quarterback in college football to win. It helps you get drafted. That's why Will Levis got drafted in the second round. But it does help. That's why Anthony Richardson got drafted 4th overall, because he fit the prototypical NFL quarterback.
That's why Joe Milton is the backup in Dallas right now.
Right.
Same logic applies to
Trey Lance. Like all these guys, you get drafted to the NFL based off of traits, not production as a quarterback. Production helps, but that's not why you get drafted. You don't need to have the traits to win in college, and we've seen that with both quarterbacks in the state so far this season. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've talked Tennessee. Again, it's leaking into my head. I think Tennessee has a good chance to win this game against Georgia on Saturday.
Jake, you're scaring me.
But I feel the same way about Vanderbilt. We'll get into that coming up next. Commodores on the road taking on South Carolina on Saturday. You can tune in right here on 102.5 The Game. Pregame starts at 5 p.m. and kickoff is at 6:45. Vanderbilt football is brought to you by Gary Force Acura, Jimmy Kelly Steakhouse, and Smoky Mountain Tops. We'll talk doors on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Tomorrow, the MTSU Blue Raiders will take on Nevada at 4 o'clock. Catch all of the action on Totally Hits 93.3 with coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Looking across the college football slate this weekend, 2 big games with in-state schools. We just talked Tennessee. I'm starting to feel like Tennessee has a good shot against Georgia on Saturday. I don't know what it is, but I feel the same way about Vanderbilt. Commodores going to face number 11 South Carolina on the road in Columbia. And maybe it's partially 16 straight losses for Vandy against South Carolina. And it's not like South Carolina is Alabama or LSU or something where it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense that it's been a while since Vandy beat them. It's South Carolina, who's not known as this college football powerhouse. Shane Beamer has them in the playoff conversation. I think Vandy's due, and I think Vandy is going to get the win on Saturday on the road. It was kind of perfect scheduling that they got to play in Blacksburg last weekend, and I don't know if they're like Diego Pavia is never scared, but I'm sure for a lot of those guys, that was the first time playing in a hostile environment, whether it's young guys or some transfers like CJ Hurd for on the defense, the safety. He transferred from FAU. I'm sure he hadn't played in a spot like that. I don't know. I didn't look at their schedule, but I think getting that out of the way as kind of a tune-up for another tough road environment is huge. And South Carolina, it's not like they've looked like world beaters. They are ranked 11th in the country purely based on reputation from what they did at the end of last season and their quarterback, Lenore Sellers.
Yeah, my heart wants to pick Vanderbilt just outright because I feel like they are due for a win. I feel like their roster is much better than it was last year. South Carolina on the other side, think about it. You've brought this up before. It's kind of like a mini round robin because these teams have a common opponent in Virginia Tech. And you look at what South Carolina did versus Virginia Tech in week 1 versus what Vandy did last week. South Carolina beat Virginia Tech 24-11. Vanderbilt outscored Virginia Tech had more yardage by 300
in the 300
yards in the second half. They emptied out Lane Stadium. So we kind of have a point to go off of. I feel like Vanderbilt is due, but then I look at South Carolina and who they have at quarterback in Lenore Sellers. And it scares me.
It's going to come down to the quarterbacks, I think. Somebody's going to have to make a play late in that game to get a win. And you mentioned the common tape, like they both have played Virginia Tech, and the transitive rule does not work in football. We know this. It doesn't work in any sports of like, oh, well, Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech by 24 and South Carolina beat them by 13. So that means Vandy's 11 points better. That's not how that works. This is football. They're going to line it up. They're going to play. But you do have common tape, and you can see how you attacked Virginia Tech because that can show you the game plan of what they're going to want to do against you. And I don't know, I like Shane Beamer. Again, as somebody who grew up watching Frank Beamer-led teams and, Shane was on those staffs, I like Shane Beamer. I don't know if he is as much of a football mind as Clark Lee is. And I know Shane's got like NFL guys on his staff. It's not all just him. But
Mike Shula, the offensive coordinator.
Right. Like he's got guys on his staff who are very they've been in it for a long time. They've got football in their blood. But I just believe in Clark Lee. Watching that Netflix documentary, I brought this up to Andrew Allegretta yesterday when we had him on, that Clark just commands that locker room. And there is full 100% belief in him as a leader and a coach and the vision that he has for this program. I don't know what there's just a feeling that they're going to go in there and win it. I think it's going to be close. I think it might come down to Diego Pavia having to make a big play at some point, like the Alabama game last year. They were not expected to win that game, obviously. Like Alabama was the number 1 team in the country coming in. And Diego Pavia on 4th down and 1. I think it was third quarter. It was third quarter.
Yeah.
And 4th and 1, the play was supposed to go to Eli Stowers, and they took it away. And instead of panicking like I think a lot of quarterbacks would, he made a beautiful throw for a touchdown to Junior Sherrill. And that was the big play that Alabama really couldn't dig themselves back from. I know Vandy had to score again later in the game, but that was the play. I think you're going to need something like that from Diego Pavia on the road against South Carolina. But I've got a feeling. I think both in-state schools are going to win this week. I think Tennessee and Vanderbilt both are going to get big wins. And we're going to head into next week for Tennessee and Vanderbilt with both those teams ranked. I know Tennessee's already 15th, but Tennessee might be a top 10 team. Vanderbilt would be a top 20 team heading into next week. And Vandy's got a couple of games that they should win at home. I understand last year Georgia State was similar of maybe they got a little too big in their britches, if they're for lack of a better term, and they ended up losing that game in Atlanta. This one's at home. And after last year, I can't see Vanderbilt overlooking Georgia State.
No, but think about how bad Vanderbilt needs this win, because if they beat South Carolina, they're off to a 3-0 start. You have Georgia State and you have Utah State, both of those games at home. And we've talked about the back half of their schedule and how rough it is.
Right.
They need this win.
They need it. If you can be 5-0 heading into Alabama, like, I understand the goal is to not just get to a bowl game. Like that is not what Clark Lee has in mind this year. Diego Pavia didn't sue to come back just to go 6-6. Like, he said that before. But if you get to 5-0, you just got to win one more game and you are bowl eligible, which for Vanderbilt historically, that's a big deal, is to get bowl eligible. But you also put yourself in a situation where you have some leeway against the tougher opponents that you play. We talked with Corey Curtis about this on Wednesday, that you do have a really tough back half of your schedule. In your last 7 games, you have to play at Alabama, at Texas, LSU at home, at Tennessee.
Missouri's in there too, but that game is at home,
right?
So that's a plus.
Missouri just lost their quarterback for the year.
Yes, yeah. Sam Horn.
Horn broke his leg, so maybe a little bit different there. But you've got 4 games that, on paper, don't look great. Again, after last year, I don't know if you can make any judgment on paper. That's why they play the games. But at Alabama, at Texas, at Tennessee, and LSU at home, that is not fun. And that's why Vanderbilt heading into the season was ranked as the second hardest schedule in the country. But if you're 5-0, and if your goal is the playoffs, which they've said all offseason that it is, even if you went 1-3 in those games, there's still an outside shot. It would be very outside. But if you go 9-3, and let's say you have a win at South Carolina and a win at home against LSU, would that be enough to at least put them in the conversation? I think maybe yes.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't know if they would get in. 3 losses we saw last year, like Alabama and South Carolina both had 3 losses. Ole Miss had 3 losses.
Was in there. They were all on the door.
They all got left out. But I think 9 wins gets you in the conversation. And if you're looking at out of the 5 toughest games that Vanderbilt has to play the rest of the way, South Carolina probably is on the easier side of them, right? Like, you're not playing in Tuscaloosa, you're not playing in Austin, not playing in Neyland. Like, Columbia is a tough place to play, but it's not those places. This is a big game on Saturday. And I got some belief. In Diego Pavia and Clark Lee.
I have belief too, because that Vanderbilt offensive line is not like Vanderbilt offensive lines in the past. They're so big up front.
Yeah.
And defensively, South Carolina lost so much attrition to the NFL draft. They have Dylan Stewart, but outside of that, so many less experienced guys than what they had last year. So that's something that I'm going to be looking for, that Vanderbilt offensive line versus the South Carolina defensive line. I think Williams-Brice is one of the more underrated environments in college football. I like to refer to it as the cockpit. It is going to be tough, but I do have a good feeling about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, you got to face Sandstorm. I loved in the recap video Vandy put out from the Tech game, they said, I'm going to keep this quick. Clark says, I'm going to keep this quick because we got to get out there and hear our song, referring to Enter Sandman. They've tried to claim these like anthems, and they're doing the same thing with Sandstorm this week.
I like that.
I like it. I like it.
I reserve the right to be wrong because I picked South Carolina, but I reserve the right to be wrong.
Yep. I'm going to go with Vandy. And you mentioned the offensive line. If you're watching this Vandy South Carolina game, I talked with Andrew about this a couple of weeks ago, but watch the offensive line when they break the huddle for Vanderbilt, because it's so unique. And maybe it's not as unique as I'm making it out to be, but I haven't really seen this before, that the sides of the line switch. There's a quick tackle and a quick guard and a strong tackle. There is no left and right. So based on what the play call is, watch them come out of the huddle and they swap sides. It makes it so much more difficult, I'm sure, to game plan for Vanderbilt, because usually the defense gets to choose how they line up their pass rushers. And I guess they still do, but it becomes a little bit more of a chess match with Vandy being able to swap which side of the line their guys are playing.
That's
on
like
too.
playing mind games with the opponent. Any little advantage, right? You can find any little advantage. I feel like it's a good thing.
I think it's I just think it's unique, and you should watch it if you're watching the game on Saturday. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 2459, clearly a South Carolina fan, says, have you ever been to a night game at Williams-Brice Stadium? If you haven't, then you have no clue. We will beat Vandy and it won't be close. I haven't been to Williams-Brice Stadium, but like the point I was trying to make is Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas are kind of widely known as some of the best atmospheres in all of college football. I think South Carolina is one of the most underrated ones, but that doesn't mean that it's in that tier. It's not nearly as big, but I agree. South Carolina fans, they show up, and it's going to be a tough environment on Saturday night.
Right. I said it was one of the most underrated environments in the country, but the spread is South Carolina -3.5. So Vegas thinks that it's going to be close.
I'm excited. It's going to be a fun day. And again, I said it earlier this week. I love that the schedule lines up that you can enjoy Tennessee, Georgia at 2:30, and then still get to watch those 6:30 games of Vandy, South Carolina, LSU, Florida, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. We're going to talk about some of those games coming up next. And of course, South Florida and Miami coming up after reruns of Gossip Girl on the CW. We'll get to that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. The week 3 slate of college football loaded. We got some good games this weekend. Excited for the 2 in-state schools, of course. Tennessee, Georgia on Saturday afternoon. Vanderbilt, South Carolina on Saturday night. We just went through those games. I'm feeling pretty good about both schools getting a win. I don't know what it is. I think we're going to get some upsets. I think the Vols and the Doors both come home with victories on Saturday. On Sunday, if you're heading to the Titans game, be sure to stop by John Bon Jovi's before the Titans take on the Rams for the 102.5 The Game pregame show with Big Joe, Derek Mason, and Chris Sanders from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Pregame show is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Old National Bank, Circus Sportsbook Kentucky, and Tennessee Brewworks. We'll get back into the Titans coming up in just a bit, but going to get back into some of the big games in college football this weekend. And I want to start with USF in Miami because South Florida with Byron Brown and Alex Golish, they have been the story of college football so far this season. Beating Boise State, which I think Boise State was kind of just ranked because of what they did last year. And it's like the expectations, even if they lost Ashton Genty, they'll be okay. Not the case. I don't think Boise State's going to be very good this year. But they win that game pretty handily. And then you go beat Florida in the Swamp. And now USF ranked 18th in the country. They get to go take on a top 5 Miami team. 3 straight ranked matchups. USF going to have a chance to prove they're legit. And they may be legit already. I think USF is hands down the favorite to be the group of 5 representative in the college football playoff right now. Lots can change, but definitely the favorite. This is a chance to pretty much lock that up as long as you don't implode in the American. And I don't know, I like Miami to win, but I think it's going to be closer than people think. That Miami defensive line is going to give USF some problems.
How rare is it that we see an opponent or a team from the group of 5, they scale up an opponent the first 3 weeks of the season? They start out with Boise State, then you get Florida in the Swamp, and then you go to Miami. They don't leave the state of Florida for the first 5 weeks of the season. I don't think they have a road game until the North Texas game on October 10th. I have all the confidence in the world that Miami is going to win this game. That's not me hating on USF because I think they're going to be the group of 5 representative in the playoff. And depending on the style in which they lose this game, if they were to lose, I'm not really going to look at them any differently because they're getting the toughest part of their schedule out of the way within the first 3 weeks.
If they win this game, do schools in the SEC that are about ready to fire their coach start calling Alex Golish right now? If they haven't already?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Right, if they haven't already, I think Florida, maybe Kentucky, if they want to let go of Stoops. Trying to think of any other one.
I'd say Alex Golish and John Summerall at Tulane are the top candidates for Power 4 jobs.
Well, and I thought it was interesting. I didn't realize Duke played Tulane this week. And, get a little revenge game there for Darian Mensah, returning to Tulane.
Tulane will win.
And Tulane's favored.
Tulane is going to win.
Yeah, crazy. Tulane's good. If anybody's going to threaten USF for that top spot in the group of 5, it's going to be Tulane. Those are the 2 teams this year that are both talented. And I agree. I think one, if not both, one of those coaches is going to be coaching in the SEC next year. Florida is definitely the place that you're looking. And we can get to Florida quickly here. DJ Lagway needs to save Billy Napier's job again. He did it last year. Billy Napier was on his way out the door, and then DJ Lagway turned it around, and they finished the season strong, and they gave him another year. This is a big week for Florida. They don't have to win this game because that's a tough ask to go into Death Valley and beat a top 5 LSU team. They don't have to win this game for Billy Napier to at least trend in the right direction, but they at the very least have to be in it to the very end. And it seems like Sunbelt Billy's time is coming to an end at Florida sooner rather than later. If they win this game, though, that does, I think, extend his leash for a little bit longer.
And stylistically, because LSU played Louisiana Tech last week, only scored 23 points, won 23-7. Post game, you had Brian Kelly trashing his assistant coaches in typical Brian Kelly fashion. And then after the USF game for Florida, Billy Napier basically came out and said nothing's going to change. So 2 different approaches, and I feel like Florida, they're playing with their back against the wall. You couldn't afford to lose to USF with that schedule. If you have any hopes of making the college football playoff, LSU has not looked how I thought they'd look on offense the last 2 games. I think it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. You mentioned it's going to be a multi-screen setup Saturday night. We mentioned Vandy, South Carolina. You got Florida, LSU, and of course, believe this is the night game on ABC. A&M Notre Dame.
That's Peacock.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's at Notre Dame.
Florida,
so yes,
LSU is
Florida
ABC.
LSU is the NBC game, and then Kentucky Ole Miss is going on at the same time too. Yes. Always forget Notre Dame has their own TV rights. Notre Dame at home against Texas A&M. This is a game the Fighting Irish pretty much have to win, right? Like, you can't start 0-2. We went through the schedule with Corey Curtis on Wednesday, and it's like, yeah, there's a chance that they could win out even if they lost this game, go 10-2 and sneak into the playoff. But I don't know if the strength of the wins is going to be enough to pull them out of it if they do go 0-2. They would, if they lose this game, best case scenario, they are on the bubble of the college football playoff at the end of the year.
Yeah, you're going to have to win out at some point. But I think for Texas A&M, this is the best case scenario because you're going to South Bend in September. Weather's going to be perfect rather than going in November because cold weather sucks.
Yeah,
but
my dad went there when Virginia Tech played them back in 2016. Hokies actually did get the win. This was Gerard Evans' year.
I remember that. Yeah.
First year under Justin Fuente. And he said that was the coldest he has ever been in his life. And that because the wind was like blowing ice chips into their face every time they looked at the field, between plays, they'd turn around and face the press box. And then when they heard the music stop, they'd turn back around and watch the play.
Because they're right there on the lake, I think.
It's
right on the lake.
I did not go, but from what I've heard, that is not a place you want to play late in the season. So yeah, I think A&M is pretty pleased that they're up there in September.
And quick side note, Justin Fuente is actually on the college football committee.
Yeah,
playoff
he
committee.
just got a new job there. I like Justin Fuente. Like, I think he kind of like Kalen DeBoer, but on a smaller scale, of course. Like, it's always tough to follow the legendary coach. And I think everyone expected him to come in and be Beamer. And his first year set some unrealistic expectations when they went 9-3 and almost beat Clemson in the ACC championship game. So I feel bad for Justin Fuente. I'm glad that he's back on his feet. I think he's doing radio color for TCU football.
Look at that.
And then he's doing that with the college football playoffs.
It turned out just fine for him.
Props to Fu. Rooting for Justin Fuente. 615-737-1025. Going to be a great weekend of college football. I am excited to just sit down and watch all of it. I've had to work a Vandy game each of the last 2 weekends. I'm not traveling to Columbia this week, so I will be ready to go tomorrow watching game day in Knoxville. By the way, Parker, thoughts on Candace Parker as the guest pick?
Love it, because last time they were in Knoxville, I believe the guest picker was Peyton Manning. So you got to get all the legends represented. I'm really, really happy that Candace Parker, she's a great representative of the university.
Yeah, she was one of my first thoughts of who they would go with. I know some people said Morgan Wallen.
They're not. I don't think they'd let him on.
I don't know about that. Other options, of course, Peyton. Dolly was one they were talking. I think Robbie and Joe were talking about
awesome.
Dolly. That one would be cool.
That would be awesome.
But Candace Parker she got personality. Obviously, she does like the inside the NBA stuff. So I think she'll be good. I'm excited for game day tomorrow. Going to be a fun Saturday of college football. Lots of big games, especially the two local to us with Tennessee and Vanderbilt. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any thoughts, you can text or call us. We'll stick with some college football. Also, maybe some Preds thoughts in this last segment of the hour as the Preds are back on the ice. The rookies out there yesterday. We'll do some college football, do some Preds, wrap up hour number 2 after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Friday. Getting ready for lots of football this weekend. Tennessee, Georgia, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Titans and Rams. We'll get back into the Titans coming up in the final hour of the show. Getting ready for the home opener, Cam Ward's real Nissan Stadium debut. I know he was out there in the preseason against the Vikings, but going to be the first time in a real game that Cam Ward is out there in front of the home crowd. We'll look at that coming up in about 10 minutes. I did want to finish up the conversation on college football here. Justin from Greenbrier on our text line says, it is fun that college football has this much parity in real life. I remember taking small programs like Tulane or Vanderbilt to the national championship on the video game. This has been the best thing to come out of NIL. It is a more interesting product overall and not just top heavy anymore. It is interesting because you can take both sides of that argument. You can say that the schools that have money are the ones who are spending the money. So it can be a competitive advantage for some of the big schools. And that's why we've seen, I think, the SEC and the Big Ten pull away is because they do have the money. The ACC and the Big 12 don't have quite as much money. But I also look at it as, yeah, you are seeing the schools within the conferences kind of come together. Like Alabama doesn't dominate the SEC as much as they used to. It's shrinking the gap. And that does make it more fun when we can talk about these games. And it's not Georgia, Tennessee, and it's like, Georgia's probably going to blow them out. Oh, Vandy, South Carolina. South Carolina is going to win by 2 touchdowns. Like, it is fun that we get to look at these games this Saturday and say, we're expecting 2 really competitive games with a lot on the line because of the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and I don't think it's completely leveled the playing field for everybody. I think rather than before pre-NIL, when we had the same 4 or 5 teams competing every year for a national championship, the bubble has expanded to maybe now you have 10, 11, 12 teams that are all capable of winning a national championship, which is something we've said in the past. I think Texas Tech is a great case study. Right. They went out and they bought their entire team. Texas Tech has never been a college football power. They've never even been to a Big 12 championship game.
Yep.
That's going to be a team with a lot of high expectations this year, and they're the perfect case study for this.
Money rules the world in everything, including college football, and Texas Tech found some young oil money, and guess what? They're spending it. They just paid a 17-year-old tackle $5 million to come to Texas Tech. So there are obviously downsides to NIL. We've talked about a ton of them, but I do think it is good that you get to see these fan bases get more invested, because back in the BCS days, like, unless you were one of the top 6 or 7 teams heading into the year, very unlikely you were ever going to find yourself in position to play for a national championship. It's not the case anymore. I mean, we saw Indiana playing the college football playoff last season. So it's a good thought from Justin from Greenbrier. Real life now mirroring the video game more, where it's like,
look at that.
Hey, if you get into the dance, you got a chance. So, good way to wrap up our conversation in college football. Did want to spend a couple of minutes on the Preds, because the Preds did hit the ice. The rookies were out there. Some of the young guys out there at Fordyce Bellevue yesterday. And I'm not people know that I'm not the biggest hockey guy. Like, I'm not a hockey expert by any means.
What does that make me?
I leave that to Adam Vingan and Willie Donick and Chase, a big hockey guy. But I feel like I have a pretty decent read on hockey. I've been following it since I was a kid, but it's not like it was the one thing that I dive into. Robbie Stanley would be in that group too. But just as I have a feeling about Tennessee and Vandy this weekend, I think the Preds, that roster is constructed in a way that they can be competitive this year, that they could be a playoff team this season. I know things went horribly last year. You had the 3rd worst record in the league, but you do have the veteran leadership and the talent on that team. And I think if a couple of these young guys can step up, and I know it's sounding kind of exactly like last year of like, man, if the young guys can figure it out, like Tommy Novak and Luke Evangelista, I get it. It's, sound like a broken record, but I do think some of these young guys can step up. Tanner Molendijk, I think, is going to be great on the defensive, on one of those defensive pairs in his first season. And can Brady Martin make the team? That's the storyline I'm following for the next couple of weeks as we lead up to the preseason. I can't believe it's already here, by the way, that hockey is just a couple weeks away.
it seems like a very quick offseason. I did want to ask you, what do you think went wrong for this team last year? Because it seemed like in the preseason, we were talking about them as legit Stanley Cup contenders, then it just rock bottom.
That was what they were expected to be. I mean, you went out and spent all that money after you make that miraculous run with the point streak and you get to the playoffs, and then you add Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, and the expectation was you are going to be contenders in the West. And then they started 0-5, and it just felt like they never dug out of it. And I don't know if it takes some time to get those guys accustomed to Bruno's system or to their teammates. I think they're going to be better. The veterans are going to be better this year. They're going to play more together. And again, I think it's the young guys. Brady Martin, I understand that it maybe was a disappointing pick for a lot of people when the Preds made that pick at number 5, because it wasn't the flashy names that had been talked about for the last couple of weeks. But he said yesterday that he's been living with Philip Forsberg at times during the summer. Like, I'm excited about this Preds team. And again, hockey is not exactly my forte, but I'm just looking ahead, and I'm moving closer to downtown next week. And I'm excited to go to some Preds games this year because I think they're going to be competitive. And I understand it could be exactly the same as last year, where you look at it and it just doesn't click for some of these veteran guys. But I got a good feeling about the Preds this year.
What about coaching? How do you feel about the coaching?
Bruno's going to have to prove it, right? Like, he's kind of in a similar scenario to where Brian Callahan is heading into this year of like, could they have fired him at the end of the year? Yeah, there was definitely cause to make that move. They gave him another chance. Can he prove that he's the guy? And with Callahan, it was a horrible first impression on Sunday. Bruno's got to get off to a better start than that. Like, you can't, I guess the equivalent would be like another 0-5 start.
And is it common in hockey to, let's say you do get off to, just hypothetically, you get off to another 0-5 start? Do hockey teams fire their coach midseason?
Yeah.
Is that a common thing?
I think hockey is one of the sports where you will see pretty early on in the season, if things aren't going well, that they'll fire the coach. So I think Bruno's on thin ice.
I see what you did there.
But I do think the talent is there. They do have to work out the deal with Luke Evangelista. I guess he's still a restricted free agent, so they haven't worked that out yet. I'm sure that's coming. The season working as a deadline, I'm sure we'll figure that all out. But I have some hope for the Preds this year. They got to get off to a better start, but I'm excited to see the young guys, and I can't believe it. Preseason is what, 2-3 weeks away, and the regular season starts in early October. So hockey season, I think, is the shortest offseason for me. Like,
by far.
It feels like it goes by so fast. We're already here and excited for the Preds. So just a quick thought there. I heard Willie and Adam talking about this on DVD yesterday, and again, I wouldn't call myself a hockey savant, but I'm excited for hockey season. I think the Preds could surprise some people this year. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts, you can text or call our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One more hour for us today. We're getting back into the Titans. Titans and Rams coming up on Sunday. Home opener for Cam Ward. What's the crowd going to look like? What's the reaction going to be, not only for Cam Ward when he's announced, but for Brian Callahan? We'll get into that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Friday. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Getting ready for Titans and Rams on Sunday. Cam Ward's home debut in the home opener against LA. Don't think the on-the-field stuff is going to be great for the Titans, but we'll get into a little bit of some of the fanfare surrounding Cam Ward's Nissan Stadium debut. I did want to get to some texts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joel says, Jake, you host a show on the flagship radio station for the Preds. You now automatically are a hockey guy. Great. I wear that as a badge of honor. I was saying more in comparison to Adam and Willie and Robbie and these guys that, cover hockey for a living. I'm not in that realm. The good news is once Pred season starts, the plan is to have Max Hers on consistently, who is a, true hockey guy. So we'll have him on to talk some Preds once Pred season starts. Excited. We love Max Hers. Justin from Greenbrier says, please, dear Lord, can the Preds be good this year? I can't handle another fall and winter in purgatory where my hockey team and football team are absolute bums. Yeah, can't help you much with the football team, and that's what we're going to get into here. Titans and Rams on Sunday. We spent most of the first hour talking about how, on paper, this is a bad matchup. It really is, especially with J.C. Latham out. We'll find out more about Tavondre Sweat's status later today. That would be a big loss if he can't play. He hasn't practiced the first 2 days this week. But it is an important day because it's the first time Cam Ward is going to play a real football game at home. And you hope this is the first of many games in the old and new Nissan Stadium for Cam Ward. I'm wondering what the crowd is going to be like. I would expect it's going to be pretty full, even though the team lost on Sunday. I was talking to, I think it was Corey or TD, saying that if they had won against Denver on Sunday, I think this crowd would be packed. If you're 1-0 and Cam Ward had a big reason to do with that win and you come back home, I think Cam Ward's debut at Nissan Stadium would be packed out. I don't know if it's going to be quite as full, but I think it'll be a good crowd. And I make the assumption they're going to announce the offense, right? Like each game
like
at
they
home.
do every game. Yeah.
No. So if you've been to a Titans game before, or most NFL games, they will announce either the offense or the defense. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
They'll send out one of the units with the rest of the team. Like, here are your 2025 Tennessee Titans, and either the starting offense or defense will just run out, and then starting at tight end, number 85, Chiga Okonkwo, and they'll go through the whole offense. I'm going to make the assumption for Cam Ward's debut, they're going to announce the offense.
Yeah, they better do offense first.
It would be a little bit disappointing if they just let Cam Ward run out of the tunnel with the rest of his team and not announce him. I think that reaction is going to be electric. He's going to go last, you would assume.
Right.
Which means he is going to be one announcement before Brian Callahan. And I'm not going to be there on Sunday. And it's not like they show this stuff on TV, but I would love it. I would love a video from somebody. If you can, honestly, you can text it into the text line.
I'll be there on Sunday.
Oh, okay, Parker,
I'll get the video.
Parker, get the video. I need a video of the contrast because it's likely going to be back-to-back where they announce Cam Ward and then they say, and your head coach of the Tennessee Titans, Brian Callahan. I'm worried he's going to get booed.
Just think about it. There's going to be so much glee, so much joy for your rookie quarterback that you hope is going to be the future of the franchise, followed by the head coach that everybody wants to run out of town.
See, I don't think they should boo him, but I know Titans fans and I know sports fans in general. Like a game like that, they're going to be at least some boos. Hopefully it's not overwhelming because I don't think Brian Callahan deserves that. Honestly, do I dare say that the Titans fans should give him like a Trey Turner cheer? Do you remember that from a couple years ago with the Phillies?
Yep, I do remember
where it's like he was going through the worst slump of his career. He could not hit to save his life. And Phillies fans gave him a standing O and he figured it out and he turned it around. I'm not advocating for it, but I think Titans fans, show your support. Don't boo the guy. He's still your head coach, at least for now. But I would love a video, Parker.
Even if you don't mean it, just give him a little something, because they're not going to fire him right now. They may not fire him mid-season like everybody wants, but give him a little bit of encouragement, even if you don't mean it, because if he gets fired this year, things will not get much better. If you promote, let's say, a John Fossil, a Bones Fossil to interim, a Denard Wilson, it's not going to automatically fix things.
This year is not going to go well whether Brian Callahan is the head coach or not. So I would say don't boo him. It goes back to the preseason where Van Jefferson had that drop in Atlanta, and everyone wanted Van Jefferson cut for dropping that pass. Everybody. They're all over Twitter. We were getting texts and saying, like, cut Van Jefferson. And then he goes out, and I get it's the preseason, and he has a big game. It's like, it's one game. It was a bad game for Brian Callahan. And if it looks like that on Sunday, I don't know if there's coming back from it. Like, I think if he has another game where we're pointing at Brian Callahan and saying, you are the reason they lost that game, then I don't know if there's coming back from it. I think he's probably done. But it's still early. It's still early in the season. He's going to get at least 6 or 7 games. Gamma Greg says that record deserves some boos. Sure. And there's going to be boos. I'm not saying there's not going to be. I'm hoping it's not overwhelming on Sunday is what I'm saying. Because that's just got to be tough for not just for Brian Callahan, but for the team. It's like, this isn't December when the team is 1-12 or something like that. You're 0-1 and you're booing the head coach to start off the home opener. It's just not a good look.
I'm going to take you to a very, very dark place, and just bear with me here. But can you imagine if the Titans, just looking at their schedule, can you imagine if the Titans are 0-6 and they're getting ready to welcome Mike Vrabel?
Oh, yeah, he's getting booed in that
to town.
One. Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine the toxicity that will be just in the air in Nashville when that happens?
No, I am fully expecting that it's not going to end up being a good season for this team. And 0945 says, why wouldn't we boo a coach getting paid millions of dollars that doesn't even know the rules? One game, did y'all not see last year? I'm saying that he's 0-1. It was a bad game on Sunday. Last year wasn't good. But, what good does it do to boo the coach coming out? And this isn't even supposed to be about that. I'm just saying that the contrast of Cam Ward and Brian Callahan back-to-back is going to be very interesting, because everybody showing up to that game wearing two-tone blue on Sunday is there to see Cam Ward. Like, that's it. That is what you are paying whatever price that ticket is, $50, $100. You are going there to watch Cam Ward play. So he is going to get one of the louder cheers you have ever heard in Nissan Stadium when a player is announced. I think the only one I can think of that maybe is louder is when Derrick Henry came back for the playoff game.
Yeah, that was a pretty big one.
Like, when he got left, I think that's that one was big. I think Cam Ward's going to be in that realm of, like, everybody there wearing Titans gear is there to watch Cam Ward make his debut.
Were you there when Mariota first got drafted? His first game was on the road in Tampa.
Yes.
I can't remember where they were game 2.
I can't remember either.
But
they lost the game.
Yeah, Mariota's first home game. Do you remember?
You weren't here. I was not there for that one.
Yeah, you weren't even in Nashville, were you?
No, I wasn't. I was in high school.
Yeah.
Ben says, if I were the Titans, I would announce Cam Ward and Callahan together and have them run out. Yeah, if you want to just give him, like, the protection of Cam Ward, because
shield the man.
People are more there. People are more there for Cam Ward than they are to boo Brian Callahan. Wes in Clarksville says, I still think he gets fired after Vrabel beats us. I hope Vrabel shows up wearing his Houston Cowboy hat and spanks the goalpost. I mean, we talked
got his
about
cowboy boots on and everything.
We talked about it with Corey of, like, we all make the jokes of Amy's going to fire Brian Callahan after he loses to Mike Vrabel. It would be really bad if they actually did that. Just because after the whole John Robinson thing, where you see people yelling at Amy Adams drunk in her box after AJ Brown when he was spanking the goalpost. Yeah, it would be bad if they fired Callahan after the Patriots game, but you may not have a choice if you are 0-6, 0-7 at that point. Sunday, I don't think it's going to go well. And Gamma Greg says, just like the paper bag mass, it lets the ownership know we are looking for change. It's fair, but I still think you're looking for improvement from Brian Callahan. This isn't past the point of no return yet. It could get there this week, but he's trending in the wrong direction. He's got to dig himself out of it quick. That starts Sunday against the Rams. All I'm saying is, like, I'm hoping it's not an overwhelming amount of boos. I'm not telling you guys out there not to boo. I'm just saying, like, I'm hoping that at least it's not the season doesn't get started at Nissan Stadium with just the entire crowd booing the head coach.
That would be a very, very long season in
Right,
general.
and that's what I'm saying. It's like that doesn't just affect Brian Callahan.
Still got 16 games to go.
The team gets to hear that too. So 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's talk Cam Ward's home debut. Did not throw a touchdown pass on Sunday in Denver. Let's hope he gets one this week. Even though it may, again, we're not expecting them to win the game. I'd like to see Cam Ward get some confidence up. And, you can only gain so much confidence, even though he did look good on Sunday, from drops and field goals. You got to actually show some results. We'll get to that coming up next. 1025, the game is teamed up with Pella Windows and the Nashville Humane Association for a puppy pet adoption tomorrow at Pella, 256 East Main Street in Hendersonville from 10 to noon. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 the game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Friday. Getting you set for a big football weekend. Tennessee, Georgia in Neyland. And actually, the Pat McAfee show on behind us. Pat's out there live from Knoxville. He's got the river in the background. And this might be the first time I've ever seen A.J. Hawk not just in that one room in his house.
I know. He always comes from the same spot every time on the McAfee show.
I thought that maybe he was not real and he was just an AI generation, but he is actually live from Indianapolis on their usual set. So A.J. Hawk not in his house. Anyway, big game in Neyland tomorrow. Tennessee, Georgia, 2:30 kick. That is on ABC, correct?
Yes, 2:30 on ABC.
2:30 on ABC, and then Vanderbilt, South Carolina, 6:45 on the SEC Network. You can listen to pregame coverage of Vanderbilt and South Carolina right here on 102.5 The Game starting at 5. Again, game starts at 6:45. But we're getting ready for Titans and Rams. Week 2, Titans coming off a disappointing loss in the way that they lost it, 20-12 to the Denver Broncos on Sunday. And we were talking about what's the crowd reaction going to be like when they announced Cam Ward? Probably going to be one of the better cheers you hear all day. And when they announced Brian Callahan, and based on the text line, I think Brian Callahan's getting booed. Like, based on what we're seeing from some of these texters, Brian says it's not the 0-1 feeling, it's the 3-15 feeling of hopelessness, hopeless football that's bringing the booze out. And I love this is voice to text. So it's spelled booze, Booze, which you might need some of that too if you're watching the Titans game on Sunday.
Yeah, just don't let us know how the results are after.
Yes. So Titans and Rams coming up Sunday. I said in the first hour that I think if you're looking for hope in this game, try and just look at Cam Ward in a vacuum, because I think that's the most hope that I got out of Sunday's game, is that if you take out all the incompetence that was around Cam Ward on Sunday, the offensive line, the coaching, the wide receivers who couldn't catch, Cam Ward looked pretty good. I think you might have to do that again on Sunday against the Rams, because without J.C. Latham and Dan Moore facing another group of elite pass rushers, you're going to have to look at Cam Ward minus the fact that he could get sacked another 4 or 5 times on Sunday.
Yep, got to get the ball out quick. No long developing play actions, because that's just not going to work against this Rams pass rush. And you can take advantage of the Rams secondary, because I do not think it is as good, as talented as the Broncos.
Not even close.
But you just got to get past the fact that front 7 is so dangerous.
Right. Cam Ward's going to have to get the ball out quick, but if you can get even just a couple of plays, if you can give him time, Calvin Ridley needs a get-back game bad. Like, if you're looking at, there are 3 guys on this team that I'm looking at on Sunday that need a get-back game where it's like, yeah, I messed up in Denver. I'm going to make up for it this week. Brian Callahan is obviously number 1. That dude cannot be the reason the Titans lose the game on Sunday. Calvin Ridley's number 2. Dan Moore is number 3. Those 3 guys did not look good Sunday. You need to see more out of them against LA. Calvin Ridley, they didn't take many shots to Calvin Ridley. Like, he had a couple passes over the middle, the dig route, the post at the end. I'd love them to try and take the top off the defense a couple times. But in order to do that, obviously you have to protect Cam Ward for those routes to develop down the field.
Which is a huge question. Will they be able to do it? I'm not confident in saying so, especially with Oli Udoh at right tackle and the way Dan Moore played. He's going to have Jared Verse. He's going to have guys like Braden Fisk who will twist and go outside. It's going to be tough. Byron Young.
You're probably going to have to keep a running back and or a tight end in on any of those passing plays where the routes need to develop downfield. Like, you're going to have to keep 6 in. We saw it late in the game against Denver where Cam Ward was positioning Tony Pollard behind the guards to make sure that he was in the right spot to pick up the blitz. You're probably going to see that a decent amount again in obvious passing downs. Cam Ward did not throw for a touchdown on Sunday. And again, if you're looking at the box score, Cam Ward, 12 of 28, 112 yards and no touchdowns. It doesn't look good, but the film shows a lot more. And I know that some of the film guys have maybe overblown it. Listening to DVD yesterday, they played the clip of Dan Orlovsky saying Cam Ward had the 3rd best quarterback performance of the week in week 1. And that is way over the top. Cam Ward, I would have said C+.
And we know Dan Orlovsky loves his quarterbacks. He loves Cam Ward, but he's been very high on Cam Ward. Cam Ward, I thought, played fine. not third best.
Yeah, I thought it's one of those things where the box score doesn't show how well he played, and you look at the film, and there was a lot that you liked out of it. Did he have the third best week of any quarterback in the NFL? I don't think so. But you'd like to see him get into the end zone. And if the Titans are going to win, you have to put it in the end zone, right? Like they had 4 field goals coming up or last week against Denver. You've got to find a way to score touchdowns this week. Love for Cam Ward to get his first NFL touchdown at home in front of the crowd. Just please don't play Ring of Fire. I'm asking again.
Got to play Tennessee Pimpin'.
Yeah, there we go. MCD.
We're all rooting for that to be the new touchdown song. So
yeah, TD was on yesterday. We played Tennessee Pimpin', and I would love that for that to be the touchdown song. And it's gonna be Ring of Fire though. It is. And Parker, if you're in the stadium on Sunday, you'll get to hear it, and you can just think of me when those trumpets start playing.
I'll get some videos. I have boots on the ground for 102.5.
Monday morning, we'll have Parker Kelly's recap of all of the stuff you didn't see on TV at Nissan Stadium, the game presentation, all that kind of stuff.
The stadium, everything that was going on inside. Yeah, I got you.
John in Nashville on our text line says, is this how everyone on the channel is going to be? Every team on the schedule is going to blow us out. John, the Titans aren't a very good football team right now. So when they play good football teams, yeah, the expectation is that they're going to lose. Next week, I'm not going to be saying this, barring an injury of some sort. Like if Cam Ward went down, knock on wood, like I'm not going to say that they're going to get blown out by the Colts. I think next week is going to be a very competitive game, and it'll be a good test for Cam Ward of like, hey, can you elevate this team to beat a team that isn't a playoff contender? Because although the Colts looked good against the Dolphins last week, I wouldn't put Indy as a playoff contender quite yet.
I think you can split with the Jags and the Colts. I think that's fair to say. The Browns are on the schedule. The Saints are on the schedule.
Right.
Those are winnable games.
There are plenty of games on this schedule this year that I will head into the weekend feeling like the Titans have a chance. With the injuries and the team you're playing on Sunday, I don't feel good about this one. I felt better about last week's game than I did about this one. Like last week, I said I thought it was about a 10% chance the Titans could win. I don't know if it's too much lower, but it's around there too. And Denver played horrible on Sunday. I mean, Denver played awful, and the Titans still couldn't find a way to win because of all the mistakes the coach made, the wide receivers made, the offensive line made. So I don't think the Rams are going to play as bad of a game as Denver did. Even if the Titans play better, which I expect they will, I expect the Titans not to have 130 yards of penalties and 5 drops, and Cam Ward could get sacked 6 times. That one still is in the realm of possibility. But I expect some of the other things to improve, but I just think the Rams are the better team. And if I had to guess, I'd probably say this game ends like 27-14 Rams, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 2-possession game. Much worse than the Broncos game.
Wes in Clarksville says, don't worry about Ring of Fire song. I doubt we score a touchdown. Yeah.
Maybe score one last week.
Maybe Parker won't come back with any thoughts.
No Ring of Fire. That is a good thing.
Yeah. Maybe that will be the only good thing about the Titans game on Sunday. Again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but it's like you look at the matchup on paper and it doesn't line up well for the Titans. Who knows? Let's wait for the injury report to come out, because that could influence things a little bit, give the Titans a little better of a chance. We know J.C. Latham is out. He told us yesterday. But if T'Vondre Sweat gets back out on the practice field today and he can play Sunday, and if those two, if Dotson and Avila, the guards for the Rams, both can't play, that could change things on the other side of the ball. And the Titans could have a better chance at slowing the Rams offense down. Who knows how many snaps L'Jarius Sneed is going to be allowed to play on Sunday. So all of those things are factors, but looking at what we know right now about these two teams and where they are health-wise, I don't feel good about it.
Nope, and you definitely, it sucks having J.C. Latham out if you're the Titans, but if you have J.C. Latham and T'Vondre Sweat out, I mean, the chances of you beating the Rams are already pretty slim. they go down way, way, way more without Devondre Sweat.
Yep. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have questions, thoughts on the Titans taking on the Rams on Sunday, 615-737-1025, our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Couple more segments on the show today. I want to start something here, Parker, and I don't know how long we can continue this. It might depend on who is with us on Fridays, but I want to do Monday headlines. So we're going to take a guess at what the headlines are going to be Monday morning. We'll do one for the Titans, one for college football coming up next. See if we can predict what's going to happen over a great weekend of football. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Parker playing one of the Hypest touchdown songs of all time. And I love Johnny Cash. I really do. I think Folsom Prison Blues at the end of the third quarter is an awesome tradition. Like, keep that. We don't need the Ring of Fire.
No disrespect to Johnny Cash, because this is a great song.
No, it's a great song.
It's just not a great touchdown song.
There might be another way to incorporate it. It's just not a good touchdown song. Taylor says that's a hot take, saying that Cam will get to hear it on Sunday. Yeah, we've heard that a couple times. I am fine with the trumpets. Just it's not good for the touchdown song. We're not going to spend time. We spent almost an hour on this like 3 weeks ago when the Titans played the preseason game. So I'm not going to spend much more time on it. I really did think, and Parker, make sure you pay attention to the intro video with Jelly Roll when the team comes out, because I thought that was awesome. There were a lot of good things about the Titans game presentation. Ring of Fire's not one.
Yeah, Jelly Roll is a great representative of this team. I'm in favor of, if we're not playing Tennessee Pimpin', have Jelly Roll make a song, and have that be the touchdown song.
Yeah, and we had a texter. I'll never remember who it was because, again, it was almost a month ago. But somebody said, like, how the Preds use "I Like It, I Love It" with Tim McGraw. Have, like, Jason Aldean do something with Crazy Town or something like that with Touchdown. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to do a new segment here called Monday Headlines. What are we going to be talking about on Monday after this football weekend? Let's do one for the Titans, one for college football. I'll start for the Titans. I think what we're going to be talking about Monday, Titans lose. Said that pretty much all day. But I think Calvin Ridley has a big bounce back game. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about from Calvin Ridley. Yes, he dropped some passes last year, and he's dropped some passes with the Jaguars, but it's uncharacteristic for him to have consistently bad back-to-back games. So I'm going to say Titans lose, but one of the big bright spots on Monday morning that we're talking about is Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward hooked up a couple of times. I'm going to say over 100 yards for Calvin Ridley on Sunday.
That's not too bold, I don't think, because Calvin Ridley's a pro. Like, he knows what to, like, there's no point in Cam Ward saying, hey, you got to catch the ball, because he is going to throw picks. That's going to happen. Calvin Ridley's a veteran. He knows how to bounce back from this. So I don't think that's fair.
This isn't supposed to be hot takes or bold takes, but just I guess it's something that we're going to be talking about on Monday. I think it's going to be a big Calvin Ridley bounce back. Do you have a possible Monday headline for the Titans, Parker?
Yeah, it may not be good, but I'm gonna share it. I think the penalty situation will be just about the same, because you have Dan Moore, who has not put it together yet, and Oli Udoh at right tackle. This front seven for the Rams is a little bit better than what you faced for Denver. And when you're outmatched athlete for athlete, technique goes out the window. You start holding, you start grabbing jerseys, grabbing face masks. I think the penalty situation, it may not be 131 yards, but it's going to be up there.
Yeah, if we're talking about penalties again on Monday, after everything this offseason with the 8 teams and the sins and the Emmys, like, we can't be talking about penalties on Monday. That becomes, I said if Callahan has another bad game on Sunday, it might be past the point of no return. Penalties is part of that. I think a lot of it is just the flow of the game and the play calling and all that stuff. But if they commit even like 90 yards of penalties again, 80 yards, like, that's when we have to start having conversations of, like, does the locker room listen to what Brian Callahan has been preaching literally all offseason?
Well, Trevor Maddich talked about it, but the way he handled the game operationally on Sunday in Denver, if I'm a player, I don't know if I trust everything that he says, because he put me in a bad position to not win the game when it was clearly there. I mean, they turned the ball over 4 times.
Right. You had short fields most of the time you were on offense on Sunday. Like, the 4 turnovers, of course, but you also had the turnover on downs when Sweat stuffed Nicks. Like, you had multiple short fields and you could not put it in the end zone once. And we were talking about the third down play in the red zone where Cam Ward took the sack, and TD was talking about how Van Jefferson was coming open. Yesterday on Twitter, might have been Titans Film Room on Twitter, Justin Graver, who put this out there, that they were looking for the throwback to Gunnar Helm. So it was supposed to be a sprint out left, and Ward was supposed to cycle back. Gunnar Helm was releasing late to the other side of the end zone. but the pressure got there so fast that Ward couldn't make the throw. So just to clarify there that could have been a play for the Titans, but obviously didn't have enough time. That may be a Monday headline too. Cam Ward tries to make plays, didn't have enough time. Let's go college football here. We got a lot of big games, especially across the state of Tennessee. My Monday headline, I look back at the Vanderbilt-Missouri game last year where Vandy on the road against a top 15 team took them to overtime, missed a field goal, came up short. I'm going to say Vanderbilt pulls it off in overtime. Brock Taylor kicks the game-winning field goal in overtime in Columbia. This time,
Overtime, you say?
In overtime, Vanderbilt beats South Carolina. They lost in Columbia last year in overtime. They win in the other Columbia in overtime this year.
I love it. Again, Jake, I'm torn on this. I reserved the right already to be wrong. So if I'm wrong, nobody come after me, because if I make a wrong pick, it actually wasn't my fault. It was either the players, coaches, or officials screwed it up. I picked South Carolina to win, but it would not be surprised if Vanderbilt won. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yep. I'm going with Vandy. And again, I said I feel good about Tennessee. That one feels more, they both are toss-up games for me, though. Not much would shock me on Saturday in either of those games. I think a blowout for either of the underdogs would shock me. Like if Tennessee just whooped Georgia or Vandy just whooped South Carolina, I think that would surprise me. I think maybe there's a chance that Georgia lets out some frustrations and finally gets the offense going. But I think Vandy in overtime beats South Carolina, and we're talking about a top 20 Commodores team on Monday morning.
I like that. I think they should already be ranked. That's my issue with the AP Bowl, because I don't believe they actually watched Virginia Tech and Vandy.
I agree. And there's been a lot that came out about, I'm not going to even try and look for the girl's name because we don't need to call her out.
Haley Sawyer?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, we can't call her out.
Yeah.
She, the AP voter who moved Florida up in her rankings after losing to USF at home. Like, I get what she was saying when they asked her the questions about it. They're like, it is just one data point in the poll, but like, if you don't care about your vote, you shouldn't have that vote.
And I'm not going to trash Haley Sawyer. I think it's more so the committee that puts these people in charge. Haley Sawyer covers USC. So she was at USC's game. They're playing late. She didn't watch Florida and USF. And the worst part about it, she didn't care to explain why. You got to watch these games if you're going to have an AP. I don't think it's too much to ask that you actually watch the games before ranking a team.
It's not even watching them. Like, if you want to be a box score scout, fine. But clearly she didn't. She may not have even known that Florida lost if you move Florida up 2 spots after losing that game. So I don't know. There's zero chance that if Vandy beats South Carolina this weekend that they are not ranked in next week's AP poll. So that's my Monday headline for Vandy. I think they win in overtime. Do you have another one for college football, Parker?
I could go local, and I just want to go national for a second, because we've talked about Tennessee, we've talked about Georgia, we talked about Vandy and South Carolina. I want to go national for a second. I've been very unimpressed with Clemson through the first 2 weeks. I thought they played a hard-fought game versus LSU in week 1. They took a ginormous step back versus Troy last week. It went down 17-0. It was really bad. They played Georgia Tech this week in week 3. It is at Bobby Dodd in Atlanta. I'm very impressed with Georgia Tech. They have had some turnover issues. They did not play Haynes King last week. They rested him for this game. I think Georgia Tech is going to beat Clemson on Saturday and have a chokehold of the ACC.
Wow. All right. I like it. And if Clemson loses that game, how short does Dabo's leash start to become?
I think he's pretty safe.
I think he's safe, but it's like this year with all the talent on that team, the expectations was to be back in the national championship conversation. And if after week 3, you're 1-2 and we're down at halftime, 16-3 to Troy, 16-0 to Troy.
Yeah,
no, 16-3.
It might have been 16. Yeah, I think it was 16-3. They missed the extra point.
And then they scored 2 touchdowns basically right off the bat in the third quarter and figured it out. But like,
it took them too long to get going.
That cannot happen with first-round talent on that roster, the amount of first-round talent on that roster. You can't lose. The LSU game, fine. That is a tough game for week 1, but almost losing to Troy. And I know there was a weather delay in there. That obviously throws a wrench in some things. They got to win this week. This is a big game for Clemson. And you're right, Georgia Tech, if they hadn't turned the ball over on their first 3 possessions against Colorado, I think they win that game by a couple of touchdowns.
They spotted Colorado 3 turnovers on their first 3 drives and still won the game.
Right. So I like it. I like the headline there. Georgia Tech gets the win over Clemson, and we start to wonder what's happening in Death Valley number 2 out there in South Carolina. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have any final thoughts, last call for phones here on the show. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. It'll be Connor Newton, Nick Frazier filling in as Big Joe is en route to Nevada with MTSU. We'll wrap up our show after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. See, this is much better. Like, end of the third quarter, Nissan Stadium, game's close. I love to hear Folsom Prison Blues. We need the right Johnny Cash.
I think it's important to note that one of my friends just texted me while we were on the air and said that he thought that Ring of Fire was a great touchdown song. I have since blocked his number.
There you go. There you go. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Wrapping up the show here on this Friday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Chasing Big Joe coming up right after us here on the station. Yeah, it's not the biggest deal. Again, the touchdown song is very low on the priority list of things the Titans need to fix, right? Like there's so much that needs to be better for the Titans, but it's just something that it doesn't have the right vibe when the Titans score a touchdown, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. It makes me want to go to sleep. And I feel like after a touchdown, I shouldn't want to feel like I'm going to go to sleep. I want to be hype.
Yeah. And I get it. Like the Titan, you're trying to be unique. The Nashville, and it's the live trumpets. Like there's something cool about it. And when I first heard it, I was at the Jets game last year when they debuted it, and it was fine. I think there are better options out there. Some people don't like the 300 first down chant. I'm okay with that one. It's become kind of a staple of Titans games.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
When they first started doing it, I wasn't a huge fan, but it's like now that it's kind of become a tradition. So I'm fine with that. Touchdown song should change. 7988 on our text line gives us something that I think is a good way to finish up the show. He says, I'm catching up, but I'm hoping if Titans lose, it will be because the other team threaded a needle, not walk through an open gate. I think that is what you should be looking for. And I know that's sad because every week you should think that your NFL team has a chance to win. And sure, there's always a chance. But the way this is lining up without JC Latham, I'm not feeling confident the Titans are going to win the game, but you hope they lose because the Rams were the better team and played the better game rather than the Titans just gave it to them, right? Like that's what happened on Sunday in Denver. The Broncos played horrible. And I saw from another texter asking like, did the Broncos play awful or yeah, here we go. John in Nashville. Did the Broncos play awful or did our defense play well? The defense did some good things, but like Sean Payton made some bad decisions in that game.
The Broncos handed it to you.
Bo Nix made some bad decisions in that game. They kept giving you chance after chance to come back and tie that game up at the end, and you couldn't take advantage. Like that needs you can lose the game on Sunday. You are not expected to win. The Rams are the better team on paper, but lose it because the Rams are the better team, not because you gave it away with bad decisions, penalties, drops, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, because this loss to the Rams, if it is a loss, which we think it will happen, it wouldn't hurt as bad if you just capitalized and scored maybe just one touchdown against the Broncos off of those 4 turnovers.
If you could have figured it out and beaten the Broncos, which, again, the Broncos are a good team. You were on the road. It's a tough environment, but you had opportunities to win that game over and over, and you couldn't take advantage. If you're 1-0 right now, it feels like you're playing with house money in this one. Because, again, I said it last week. If you're 1-1 after these first 2 games, you feel good. And if the Titans pull it off on Sunday, you would think that has something to do with either the young quarterback or Brian Callahan did a lot better, which he has to, or the offensive line figured something out. That's why it just feels like the puzzle pieces aren't aligning for them to get a win on Sunday. Could it happen? Sure. But with the JC Latham injury is the one thing that is kind of holding me back. Like last week, I didn't think the Titans would win, but I was like, you know what? If the offensive line protects Cam, they might have a chance. This week, it doesn't seem plausible that Cam Ward is going to have a clean pocket very often.
Because we were talking about the Broncos as I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender or anything, but they are a legit playoff contender. This Rams team is very much a Super Bowl contender in the NFC. I do not feel great about this at all.
Cam Ward was pressured on 53% of his dropbacks last week.
What do you think the pressure rate's going to be this time around?
Right. And JC Latham was hurt, so he clearly wasn't 100%, but I wouldn't guess it's going to be much better on Sunday. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Last call for phones here as we wrap up the show. We did go through, if you missed it, the cow milking competition. Chase McCabe and I, we fell short last night at the Nashville Fair. It was a tough blow to the confidence, but we've got 365 days to get better for next year. So Chase and I will be practicing starting this weekend our cow milking abilities. We finished dead last. It was not close. And I'm sure Chase will have some thoughts with Nick and Connor coming up on the next show. 7988 has a headline: Titans infuriate bettors again with law. They lose the spread and all offseason O-line acquisitions injured. There you go. That's a positive one from 7988 to finish.
Look at that.
Yes. Just a quick note here before we wrap things up. I'm going to be out there calling Vanderbilt soccer tonight. They host LSU over at the Plex. So if you're looking for something to do on a Friday night, I know there's plenty of good high school football out there as well. Make sure to tune in tonight for the Game Blitz.
That's right.
Connor Newt with Parker Kelly and Connor Newt and the Metro Game of the Week. Always fun to listen into those games right here on 102.5 The Game. But if you're looking for something to do, come out to the Plex. SEC Soccer, Vandy LSU. I'll be calling it over on the SEC Network Plus. So excited for that. Excited for a fun weekend of football. We've gone through it throughout the whole show. Tomorrow is going to be a great day of football, and it could go all kinds of different directions for the fans we have listening out there. Vandy fans would love it if they can beat South Carolina and Tennessee lays an egg against Georgia and vice versa. But I said it earlier. I'm starting to think both teams got a good chance to win. We'll see.
I do too. I think the key for Tennessee in this game, Joey Aguilar, baptism by fire. He had the first two games to kind of get warmed up for this game. I think what's hindered Tennessee in the past against Georgia is the lack of explosive plays through the air. I think Tennessee's going to have they run the ball very well, but Georgia likes, they have a bunch of big bodies up front. So they like to play light box and then have a six corners or six secondary players out there. If Tennessee's able to connect on some deep passes down the field, I love Tennessee's chances in this.
That game coming up at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. Game day is in Knoxville, going to be an interesting one out there in East Tennessee. Vandy at South Carolina. You can listen to that game starting at 5 o'clock right here on 102.5 The Game tomorrow. Kickoff is at 6:45. And then Titans and Rams coming up on Sunday. We'll be back on Monday to recap all of it. That does it for us here on Next Man Up. Chase and Big Joe with Nick Frazier and Connor Newt coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.